Good evening, and welcome to Local Time. I'm your host, Ted Billich, and tonight we're going to be discussing the arts in Arlington. With me tonight, I have three distinguished guests. First, I have Janet Kopenhaver, the chair of the Arlington Arts Commission, which is the citizen organization that advises the county board with respect to arts matters. Welcome. Next, I have Jay Dick. Jay is the Director of State and Local Affairs for the national nonprofit Americans for the Arts. Jay, welcome.
Thank you.
And finally, I have Lucy Bowen McCauley. Lucy is the founder and artistic director of Bowen McCauley Dance, which is a local Arlington nonprofit. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
As I said, we're going to be talking about the arts tonight, and I thought perhaps you could set the stage for us a little bit.
Sure.
When we talk about the arts in Arlington, we are facing a series of constraints right now.
Correct.
We have a $1.4 billion budget. We have many people trying to feed from that budget. Janet, could you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to be the chair of the Arlington Arts Commission in that context? And perhaps you could start by telling us what the Arts Commission does.
That's a good start. Thanks, Ted, and welcome to the two other guests here on the panel with me. The Arts Commission has been around for several decades. We have two different kinds of grants programs. We actually give funding to some groups to help them with their overhead and support and general operating support. That funding is totally based on the income that they raise for Arlington. So if a group makes money in other states or counties, that does not apply to how much they can get in a grant program. So it's truly what they are earning for Arlington, and it's 10%. Mm-hmm. So we're getting a very good return on investment for those grant dollars. And then the other half of our grantees get space and services. We have a couple of facilities that we can provide them to do theater and dance and symphony and those kind of events. The commission, there's 14 of us on the commission. We're all volunteers, and we have the common love for the arts, and we advocate for the arts in Arlington.
And how long has the Arts Commission been around, Janet?
Whoa. I think it's been around about 20 years. Mm-hmm. Lucy, you might remember.
It's been around ever since we've been in, and we were 19 years,
mm-hmm.
so
I think it's about that.
About 20.
And the commission is part of the Arlington Way, I think.
It is. We are the link between the county board and the citizens, and we'll be talking later on in the program about a great advocacy campaign that we just finished up, which allowed commissioners to go out to arts venues, arts performances and events, and we talked to thousands of patrons and residents, and just to get their support for the arts, to let them sign petitions to let the county board know that they supported the arts, and that is what our mission is, to advocate.
And it's a challenging time to have that mission. We have
Certainly
a budget that has many constraints on it, and yes. We have two county board members who have decided not to run for re-election. We now have the county manager who's decided not to run for, or not to remain in her spot. Under those circumstances, how do you expect the arts to go through this budgetary cycle?
It's been a very tough one. We have the grant program that was actually slashed by 30% over the last 5 years, so we've been trying to get that back up because our arts groups, again, they're getting money based on the money that they raise for the county, so we think it's important. We want a diverse and active cultural and art community in Arlington. Residents deserve it. We work hard for our money, and we want a vibrant arts community.
Jay Dick, this is a refrain that you probably hear a lot in a lot of different jurisdictions, the idea of constraints and trying to make tough decisions. Tell us a little bit about that context. What is Arlington facing that is either similar or different from other jurisdictions these days?
Well, you're really not all that different. And where I sit at Americans for the Arts, we're a national nonprofit. We're based just across the river a little bit, but I am a Northern Virginian, for the last 17 years. And, so we work in all 50 states, and we have 5,000 local arts agencies around, so, and I travel a lot, so I see a lot of stuff going on. And, we're coming out of the Great Recession. And so there's a lot of tough economic times going on. And what I found, though, is in areas where there's a citizen group that really says, hey, no, we value the arts, we stand up for the arts, we want to make sure the arts are a part of our community because you know, people want to live, work, and play on one place. Like Roslyn, for example. You know, there's a big economic development effort going on in there. And so how do you get them to want to live, work, and play? Well, one of the things is, on the play side, is a great arts and cultural venue. You know, it's something that is really, you know, important. But it's just not about the play thing. It's about economics. You know, who would know that actually the nonprofit arts are the biggest private employer here in the county? You wouldn't know that.
Tell me more about that.
Let me get to, just because I want to make sure I have the right numbers. So according to, you know, Dun & Bradstreet, which is the nation's authority on categorizing businesses into different categories, the creative economy in Arlington, there are 701 arts-related businesses who employ 4,063 people. So if you look at the top private employer, Deloitte, who employs 3,490, or go down to Lockheed Martin, 2,600, or the VA hospital, 2,000, we actually have the largest amount of employers. But we're not all in one big building. See, that's the problem. You know, Virginia Hospital System, big building, 2,000 employees, they're important. Where the arts are 1 or 2 people here, 1 or 2 people here. But you know what? They're all small businesses. And they're all small businesses that pay taxes, and they're all small businesses that are out there every day trying to make Arlington, you know, a better place to live and work and play. And they bring a lot of money into the county.
Lucy, you started Bowen McCauley Dance 20 years ago?
We were founded 19 years ago.
And you were incubated by the county at that time, right?
Yes, we were part of the Incubators series, they called it. We were an egg that I would say hatched. And back then what happened was it was more in-kind support than a lot of dollars. The grants were very small. I think it was 5% then, and very small, and our budget was so much smaller when we were young. But you got space. We were at Gunston Middle School, a theater that was, you know, we'd get the theater for a week and we'd only have to pay like 10% of our ticket sales. It was unbelievable. So it was Arlington's one of the reasons I took the risk to found a dance company, because I saw the possibilities. There was some in-kind costuming and things like that. But as we grew, the in-kind stuff, you know, could only help us so much. So you do need dollars to keep going. And I want to reiterate that, you know, it's not show art, it's show business. We do employ a lot of people. A dance company employs, you know, technical directors and lighting designers and costumers, stage managers, you know, dancers, musicians, you know, the costumers, you know, we rent theaters. People come to the show and buy dinners. They take taxis home. They get their hair done so they look pretty. I could go on and on. So we really are an economic engine.
So for a long time, Arlington has had a public posture of wanting to support the arts and, in fact, wanting to incubate the arts.
Exactly.
What are some other examples of that happening in the community?
Well, we've had this, as Lucy mentioned, this incubator program. Signatures is a great example. They started in a garage, a 4-mile run, and have now, I'm sure most people know, they do stellar performances, have their own facility, and they did a study. I don't know exactly when it was, but the restaurants there knew when Signature did not have a show. Their businesses plummeted by double digits. They just, like Lucy said, you go out to eat first, or you have a drink afterwards, and it is bringing in needed economic dollars to Shirlington in this case.
Jay, we were talking about that a little bit. That you're not merely talking about ticket prices when you're talking about the attendance at some art venue or going to some show. What else is involved there, and what are the dollars?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we do at Americans for the Arts is we have a huge research wing, because, you know, if you don't value it, you don't research it. So we value the arts, so we want to make sure we research it. And so it's called our Arts and Creative Economy Report. Go to americansforthearts.org/research. It's all available for free. Look up Arlington County. And you'll see that, you know, people go out and they buy, you know, a $30, $40, $50 ticket. But they do a lot of other things, as Lucy was saying. And so, on average, everyone that goes out into, you know, to Signature or to Artisphere or whatever spends $20.36. So that's on meals, that's on parking, That could be on souvenirs. That's all stuff, though, that goes directly into the local economy, and it's something it immediately hits the county's budget too, or their coffers, because those are sales tax, and sales tax gets collected on a very regular basis, and it's an immediate, ka-ching into the county's coffers. And so if you add all that up, that $20.37, that adds up to about $7 million a year, $7,300,000 a year. Now, the bad part, though, so that's all good, $7 million is good. But if you look at some of our neighbors, and I don't like to compare too much, but if you look at some of our neighbors, their $7 millions are 44 millions.
What do you mean? That other jurisdictions end up with bigger bang for the buck?
Yeah, because one of the problems with Arlington, while we have some wonderful theaters and wonderful spaces here, we don't have a lot of them. And so there's not a lot of space. And so what do people do is they go across the river to D.C., they go down the road to Alexandria. They go over to Fairfax. They go to Montgomery County. There's a lot of great venues here. And so every time a person leaves and goes to see something else, they're taking their $20.36 that would have been spent in a local business, and they're giving it to Alexandria, Fairfax, D.C. And so that adds up. And so if you look again at in Alexandria, for example, they have a lot more performance spaces. And so if you have more performance spaces, you have more opportunity for people to go see a show, and you have more opportunity for people to spend money. And that's oftentimes what it comes down to is, giving people the ability. We're an affluent county, that we want to go out and we want to have some fun events, and if we don't provide it for them, it's going to go, they're going to go someplace else. Artisphere, for example, 70,000 people go over their threshold each year. So 70,000 times $20.36. So there's a proposal to close it. So if they do close it, where's that money going to go? Because it's still going to go someplace. Because people are going to still want to go out and do things. That's a big problem.
I want to get to Artisphere, but before I did want to follow up, Lucy. You have your operations here. Where do you have your performances?
Yes, so Bowen McCauley Dance has had to be a little creative. Our office space is in Ballston, and we're very grateful to Arlington, and we do a significant number of performances and festivals here in Arlington. We do a huge festival. We just had it called Move Me Festival at Kenmore Middle School, where we're also in residence, and we had like 20 arts partners in for the day, offering all for free activities for families.
It's a great event.
Yeah, and we had 1,100 people this year. It was our 6th year. First year we started with 250 people, so it's really grown. Great. Proud of that. We use Cinetic Theater. We rent Signature Theater occasionally. We've used Artisphere usually once a year. But for our big show, Red Carpet Experience, we go to the Kennedy Center every year. So we have shows April 10th and 11th, and there we are in D.C. We also use the Atlas Theater in D.C. And Bowen McCauley Dance, to stay alive, we also tour. I'd like to take it as a plus, because when we go out on tour nationally and internationally, we went to China a year and a half ago, we represent Arlington. So we are proud to do that. We're one of the few groups, I think, in the Arlington area that do that kind of touring to represent Arlington. We try to make it a plus, but we don't have a home here. Our rehearsal space is in Silver Spring, so it's a mix and match.
Right, and Bowen McCauley contributes so much back. You do great fundraisers, and like the Move Me Festival benefits 19 other groups as well to showcase their dance troupes, and it's a great event. It's a great family event. And like you said, you have to rehearse in Maryland. So
and we do take every opportunity we can to collaborate with other groups, National Chamber Ensemble, Cinetic Theater, Signature Theater, Urban Arias. When we can, we will. And we try to stay in Arlington, but we can't always.
Exactly.
And a lot of it has to do with venues.
Correct.
And one of the major venues is now being slated for shutdown.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Artisphere.
Sure.
Artisphere was opened 4 or 5 years ago? Is that right?
It was 10-10-10.
Okay, that's right.
We performed that night.
That's right.
That's right, opening night.
And where does that stand? What is the current discussion of Artisphere and whether it is going to remain open, where the resources would go if it doesn't remain open?
Okay. Well, let's just back up a little bit. 10-10-10 was the opening. Without going into a lot of details, they had a business plan that wasn't going to work. In 2011, they actually revamped it, made it a workable business plan, and since then, there have been double-digit increases in attendance. The artistic director and executive director, they're bringing wonderful groups in. They're selling out so many shows. Every show I've ever gone to has been sold out there. They're attracting millennials, which is a group that we all want to bring to Arlington County. They have income, they want things to do, they don't drive, they want to take the metro. So it's been wonderful. I know that there's studies that are showing now museum attendance is down. I don't know if it's by double digits, but it's down in most museums. The Artisphere was going against the trend. Double-digit increases, and now they're proposing to shutter the doors. Where it stands now is the county manager has presented her budget to the county board to shutter it. The contribution from the county was roughly $2.3 million to keep it open and have all this great programming throughout the year. $1.3 million still has to be paid if a new tenant isn't found, so they still have to pay ongoing expenses. So they'll shutter the door, but still have to pay $1.3 million.
Tell me a little bit more about that. This was discussed the other night at the budget hearings. Is this right or not?
The decision was made with actually no consultation, or the recommendation from the county manager. As the chair of the commission, I was told the night before that this was going to be recommended. We've asked for some in-depth economic analysis because not only is that $1.3 million still have to be pushed into the Artisphere back again, even though there's absolutely no programming and great facilities, theaters there that could still be used. So we've asked that a working group be put together to come up with some alternative uses instead of locking the doors. But there was also no consultation with the residents of Roslyn who could just walk there, and the restaurants. And we've got to assume that those restaurants are going to be negatively impacted if there's no shows at Artisphere. You know, Roslyn, like it or not, there's not a lot to do at night. Then came Artisphere, and suddenly it was kind of booming. They were getting people to cross the river. Their demographics, I think, about more than half of their patrons came from outside Arlington.
Jay, is this normal for an organization to be shuttered that rapidly, or is that not rapid? Is that a good run?
No, that's not a good run. Especially when you have an organization that's doing good work and you is having double-digit increases. My gosh, that's wonderful. You look at any of the studies that come out and you see double-digit declines in many of our types of art forms that are out there. I think, you know, Artisphere, they had a lot of different types of art that went on there, and that appealed to a lot of different people, whether it be the millennials, whether it be our seniors, whether it be, you know, everyone in between. And so I think that was, you know, something that's really wonderful. So, you know, from 10-10-10, so we're under 5 years for that. You know, it takes a while, especially again. They opened it at the worst possible time. It was in a recession, you know, and you know,
and
but
it was a very bad business plan.
Yeah, and a business plan that said we're going to have something in here every night, and we're going to fill it every night, and we're going to, you know, that's
unrealistic.
Not. It was unrealistic. It was impractical, and so when But even through all that, they've been doing some really good stuff.
Good
and the new plan, they've met all their goals.
Yeah, and so to say, you know, hey, you know, we're going to just yank the funding after that is I think a little short-sighted by the county, because you have, you know, with a stated goal of trying to revitalize Roslyn and getting people to live down there, you need an anchor, you need a hub, just like in any mall, you know, you need. A major hub to, you know, draw other things to it. And if you don't have that hub, you're not going to draw a lot of things to downtown Roslyn, and people are, you know, they're building all kinds of condos down there, which are actually behind schedule because of the recession, which doesn't help the Artisphere. Right. You know, and so, you know, that's where the county gets their monies from property taxes, you know, the biggest part of their revenue. So if people are not willing to move down there, You know, they're not going to collect their property taxes, and you're going to have empty condos, and then property taxes are going to, or property values are going to go down, and it's a downward spiral. So, you know, to really just yank the rug out of this, especially when they're doing so well, is something that on the national level, my colleagues and I, you know, we're kind of scratching our heads, going, "Wow, that's a little different."
Well, compare that then to some other jurisdictions.
Yeah, exactly.
What have some other jurisdictions done, and what was different about either their planning or execution that allowed for them to make the ongoing commitment?
So let's just go down the road a little bit to Fairfax. So the workhouse in Lorton. So for our viewers, you don't know, the workhouse is aptly named because it was the old DC prison that they shuttered, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And they had this old prison, and they had our dump that's out there, and there wasn't a lot of other stuff out there. But they had a plan, they had an idea. We want to revitalize this area that's currently not generating any or very little tax revenue. And so what they did is they had the huge area for the old prison. So they took a part of that and made the workhouse, which is an arts center. It has a lot of different aspects to it. From you can go in and watch artists work and buy their stuff there. They have a gallery. They have a wine festival each year. I think they have a jazz festival. They have a lot of good stuff going on. But the problem is, there's a lot of empty land and a dump, the county dump, around it. And so what do? Is the county knew that they had to spend a lot of time developing this, because it's, you know, you have to kind of know where it's at. It's off of 95, going down towards Richmond. And so they knew that they had a lot of time to develop this, to nurture it, because, you know, people just do not, you know, the old adage, build it and they will come. Well, yeah, but it might take a few years. And so what happened with just this, I think last year, Lorton was, or the workhouse was struggling a little bit, and the county said, you know, we're going to back your bonds, and we'll make sure that you can stay open, because again, you're doing good work, you're bringing people down to that area. We want to sell condos and houses down in that area, and they're building that stuff right now, and we want to make this an area that's going to generate a lot of tax revenue at the end of the day for Fairfax. But also what it will do is it will make people want to live down there. It gives them something to do, something to have fun, and give them a reason to, you know, continue to be a Fairfax resident and spend their $20.36 in Fairfax.
In the county, right.
What was it about Fairfax that allowed them to be differently cited as far as the project planning than Arlington?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. So this is just purely my opinion here. Is the supervisor, the county supervisor is Jerry Highland, that he is someone that really understands the economic value of the arts. And his supervisor next to him in Lee District is Jeff McKay, who also really gets it. And so we have a board of supervisors from you know, Penny Gross and Chairman Bulova, and others, that they understand the economic value, and they understand that things don't happen overnight. And so they were willing to put up their political capital, and they did, and they got raked over the coals a little bit. You know, there was some editorials in the Post, and some people wrote them probably some nasty letters, but they stood by it because they realized, you know, this is for the long haul. And I applaud them, because so often our politicians only look to the next election. And they're all up for election in November, to be honest. And but they're saying, no, this is an important thing for us. This is an important thing to develop this part of the county, which is so far, what was it? A prison and a dump. And, you know, and now they're saying, look, we're going to make this area into something really good. But it takes a little bit of time, and it takes certainly more than 4.5 years.
Can I just throw one last thing in? You said the Post, it reminded me. We have Artisphere, and it's a great gallery, because it's, you know, does theater as well as a visual gallery and different exhibits. And every spring, the Washington Post does its spring review. And we're competing with the Smithsonian, the Hirshhorn, the Corcoran, I mean, lots of great galleries in this area. Their top must-see exhibit was the Fermata exhibit at Artisphere. Front page of the style section of the Washington Post as the exhibit to see. And then the next year, they're proposing to shutter the doors. That's when the commission was just like, what is going on? Actually, no forward thinking, no understanding of the arts. And that's why we got kicked into high gear with our advocacy.
Well, one thing that is present in Arlington is we have an arts commission, What organization speaks from the private standpoint on behalf of the arts in Arlington? Who gives voice to the nonprofits and the people who frequent those nonprofits in Arlington?
Well, that's what we're working on. We did, like we were saying before, we had this advocacy campaign not only for the grants, to get those grants levels back up to the 2010 levels, put back that 30%. Another program that they zero out every year, which blows our mind, and Lucy can attest to this, it's called a challenge grant program, and that's 2-to-1 matches from the private sector. So you're getting the private sector vested, and I believe you've gotten some of these grants before.
Many, yes.
They
So
zero
you have
it
to
out.
get new corporate funding,
And it's new money,
the
right.
county will match a 1-to-2 match. So if we got $1,000 by some new corporate funder, the county will match by $500. It does go up to only a certain amount because there's only 30,000.
It's only 30,000
The
pot,
pie
right.
is only 30,000, and all these arts groups go. But we do a really good job of bringing in.
It's a great way
So
to
the
fundraise.
idea is to leverage in
Yeah.
some
Exactly.
way.
Yes,
And
with this
everyone agrees.
this
It's a
matching
great
grant.
program.
Fabulous grant.
Every year it's zeroed out, and we have to fight for it. So that's when we said, and then on top of that, with the Artisphere thing, and no consultation with certainly the commission, certainly none of the arts groups, none of the residents, no patrons, no one. It was just, okay, this is going to be the recommendation. So we realized that we really have to develop, and the commission will take this on, not only starting with this fiscal year, but now we've got to do it all year round, and really develop some kind of citizens advocacy group.
And I think we could partner. There's a thing called Virginians for the Arts. You understand what that is. And then we have Americans for the Arts right here in D.C. And we could start, Arlingtons for the Arts kind of thing. But, already, partner with people who...
And the communities around you have the Fairfax County, or the Arts Council of Fairfax County, for example.
Exactly.
So there's other groups around you. You're just...
Right.
Right.
We
Jay,
don't
what
need to
are-
reinvent the wheel. We just need to
get people
ginned
up. And they were very angry. As I mentioned, we spoke to thousands and thousands of people. I'm sure you spoke to your patrons.
and
Americans
lots
for
of
the Arts
signatures.
helped us with the advocacy, and they're very angry.
What are the models that work in other jurisdictions for citizen advocacy on behalf of the arts? Is it episodic? Is there a nonprofit usually that serves as a coherent voice? What are the models that you've seen, and which ones have had success and which ones have struggled?
Yeah. Well, there's a variety of different models out there, and it depends on the locality, because every locality has their own things that are interesting or unique about them. So for the most part, the ones I see that works the best is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is there to advocate on behalf of the arts. So they have a membership program where all the different arts organizations pay $50 or $100, not a lot of money to be part of it. They gather that expertise, that information. They lay out a strategy, a plan, and really work to advance the arts there. They get private funding. We have a lot of different businesses, Fortune 100, 500 in Arlington, and some of them are very generous to the arts because they realize the arts are important. Boeing, for example, they spend a lot of money on the arts, on STEAM. You've heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. STEAM, arts, are between engineering and math. Or bring together engineering and math, and because they realize they need creative employees in the future. And how do they get creative employees? Well, one way is you have arts and education in your county schools to be able to help them bring out their creativity. And so you have a lot of businesses here that would pay to give dollars, and Boeing, for example, already does. There's others that are out there to say we want a citizens group that can advocate on the citizens' behalf to say the arts are important to the citizens of Arlington. They bring in a lot of money. They bring in a lot of tourism. And gosh darn it, we love them and we want them to be here.
Well, Jay, so even in some jurisdictions that have a citizen advisory commission, sometimes they have nonprofit models.
Oh, yeah, most of the time they do. So And especially, in localities, this, $500,000 and above, or $250,000 and above, yeah, you will have the citizens group that is, oftentimes receives funding from the county to re-grant out to nonprofits, which they match, as we've talked about, and how they, bring things back into the county's economy. And then you have the nonprofit advocacy wing that works independently from the government sponsored group to advocate on behalf of the arts. And so you need those two different entities to really have a successful system. So on the federal level, you have the National Endowment for the Arts. And you have, who is receiving money from Congress to re-grant, and you have Americans for the Arts, my organization, that's advocating for the arts. And we just had our Arts Advocacy Day last weekend, where we had 600 people from across the country come in to advocate. You have Virginians for the Arts, the advocacy group that advocates on behalf of the Virginia Commission for the Arts, which receives money from the state legislature, so they can then re-grant stuff out, federal, state, and now local. So you need an Arlingtons for the Arts to advocate for the Arlington Commission for the Arts. And that's, a successful model. They all work together, but they're independent. Because each side has different things that they're even more equipped to do. And it just is a great way to make sure the arts and culture are a central part of our lives. And we found that the arts are we've talked about the economics of the arts. Everyone would agree the arts are good for the soul. But the arts are also good for a lot of other things. The arts are not just this little tiny thing.
How about education?
Education.
Well, and Lucy, you have programs that
we have enormous programs, and as the county has slashed some money for schools to have arts in the schools during the daytime, Bowen McCauley Dance has stepped in, and I know other arts groups are helping as well to kind of cover that. We have numerous after-school programs, many in Arlington, and we do not charge. They're offered free, and these are students whose parents, frankly, probably couldn't pay for dance classes. And so we come into the school, we give dance classes, we also do give them choreography and performing experiences, because it's a performing art, costumes, and we raise the funds to do this. Boeing also helps support, one of our supporters, Boeing came in this year to help support our Dance for Parkinson's Disease program. We offer 5 classes each week for free in 5 locations. And we only actually have one of those locations in Arlington.
Well, can I go off the arts ed for a second?
Absolutely.
It's just not feel good for kids to get arts class or something like that. Kids that have arts and education, especially on the junior high and high school level, score on average 100 points higher on their SATs. They're 4 times less likely to drop out of school. They are 4 times more likely to participate in a science or a math fair and get a ribbon for those. And that's across all socioeconomic classes. So it's just not for the rich people.
I love that.
And it helps. We believe in everyone gets a quality education, that anyone can pull themselves up and be successful and be president or whatever the case is. Well, the arts are one way that you really help that bottom quartile. Really improve their reading skills, their math skills, their science skills to be on par with the upper socioeconomic class.
We've seen proof of that over and over.
Exactly. Yeah. And then on the other side is seniors. They show that if you have arts in your lives, it staves off Alzheimer's or dementia. And then we were just talking before the show about they're doing art therapy for veterans. So what we're trying to say is take this money that if you're scaling back Artisphere, any money that's saved, instead of putting it into the general pot, which half of it is slated to go back in there, let's keep it in the arts, but let's target certain groups. And that's what we have proposed to the county board. Let's give art therapy for veterans. Let's maybe provide shuttles for seniors to go from their center to a theater, to a dance performance, any kind of performance, because they really want stuff to do, but sometimes they have trouble getting around.
Well, let me push on that a little bit. How do you respond to someone who says, why should we put another dollar for the arts when we still have homelessness in Arlington? Why should we when we don't have sufficient medical facilities for certain target populations, and so on? What's the response when the county board is trying to make the decision on the margin? Why investing in arts or spending in arts is preferable to spending on some other social service?
I think what it is, and what I was hinting at before, is we're permeating in every sector of our community, and we're improving life for everyone. So if you put, for instance, money to art therapy for veterans, you're going to be helping not only veterans, but the medical community, and pulling down those expenses that maybe if the county is paying for, that they're on county programs. Schools, if we have more successful students who then go to college and come back here and have great jobs or do whatever they're going to do. So it's the return on investment and the investment in a lot of different sectors of our community. It's showing that the arts have a positive impact.
And let's riff off the economics there. So according to our national studies that we've done, the arts generate, the nonprofit arts generate almost $23 billion a year in federal tax and federal, state, and local tax revenues. Would anyone care to guess what the federal, state, and local governments appropriate to the arts? The sum total, if you count everything that a parking lot across from a theater. Ted, I'll put you on the spot. What do you think the federal, state, and local governments appropriate for the arts?
I have no idea. A similar magnitude?
Yes. Yeah. For about $4 billion. Again, if you squint and count everything that counts. So hear me out. So the federal, state, and local appropriate $4 billion. They're getting $23 billion back. So that's about a 6-to-1 return on investment. I always say if that was an IPO on Wall Street, I would take it. The arts are a good investment. So that's national. So let's, again, we have the numbers for Arlington that you get $3.9 million back in local taxes as a result of the nonprofit arts here. And what's Artisphere? $2 million. What's your budget?
Well, our grants budget is $199,000.
$199,000
plus the $30,000 for challenge grants. So.
Okay, well, throw in the $30,000, and we'll give you an extra $20 to squint and count everything else. I mean, what is that's a huge return on investment. And again, it's always fun. I'll go out and I'll talk to elected officials or whatever. And the public perception of the art is the old lady with the opera glasses, going out. That's really not the arts nowadays. The arts is your group. The arts are arts and military for PTSD returning veterans. The arts are after-school gang dropout prevention. The arts are festivals. The arts are all this stuff that people just don't realize that are here. And I think, the arts are nice.
It's not just putting on a show. Half of our budget is for community outreach. Half.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Lucy, you have peers around the nation and internationally who also often run in a nonprofit model. Compare your experience in founding an Arlington nonprofit that does arts to some of the challenges and some of the benefits that others face in other jurisdictions. Have you heard either particular horror stories or particular things that you wish Arlington did differently?
Well, I could say I serve on the board of trustees of Dance USA. It's the national service organization. It happens to be based here in Washington, D.C. And I'm the council chair for arts groups 3 million and under, so dance groups. And so I do hear a lot about this. There are similarities around the nation to what's going on in Arlington. I would say generally most places seem to offer more theaters, more spaces to perform. Trey McIntyre has this fabulous company that now he decided to take a different direction, but the point is he decided to move his company to Boise, Idaho, where he would be embraced, and like his first grant from the county was $450,000, which is basically our budget, because they were so happy to have him in Boise and so embraced and gave him use of theaters for free, and you get the idea. So there are places out there that are so happy and support the arts And that's not the case as much in Arlington. Again, we've had a good run here. We want to keep going. I'm grateful to Arlington, but we need to step up.
Right,
Well,
exactly. And our arts groups, for the grants, they put in their applications. As I mentioned, it's Arlington income. And the Arlington groups that have applied, I don't have the exact total, but it's about $4 million. So we're spending $200,000 and they're bringing in $4 million. Again, great return on investment.
And as the budgets get slashed, as like, for example, our budget grows, which is healthy and you want it to grow, but the grant amount goes down, so our 10% that should be on a growing budget, we're going down in our support from the county as we grow, which
and Ted,
is troubling.
We invest in transportation, we invest in our schools, we invest in a lot of things that are, that are important, to us, to Arlington. And we need to invest in the arts because, again, unlike investing, say, in transportation, the arts actually pay out. They're like a nice slot machine that pays out at, at a nice rate. You have to invest in transportation, you have to invest in social services and stuff like that. But by, investing in the arts, that helps spin off money to help pay for a homeless shelter or or something along those lines. And there's areas, there's localities out there that have really gotten it, and really said we're going to embrace the arts. Random example: the great city of Paducah, Kentucky. If you guys know where Paducah is, I'd be very pleased. Small, about 70,000 people, so a little smaller than Arlington, and they had an area in their town that it was boarded up houses. It was there was nothing going on, crime, and it just was horrible. And what they did is they got together with the government, their arts groups, bankers, and they offered low interest loans to artists to go into these houses. You have to live there for at least 5 years. And you had to live and work in there, and you had to do improvements to those areas. That that is now the area where the mayor lives, the doctors live, the lawyers live,
right.
And it's generating a ton of money for them. And it's all because they said, we're going to invest in the arts. We're going to give a little bit of investment here, and we're going to watch that grow. Now, could you do that everywhere? Yeah, I don't know. And is the arts the only answer? No, of course not. But they should be part of the process. They should be part of, the tool, your toolkit that you use to revitalize, an area, whether it be Roslyn or Paducah.
The Atlas Theater has done for 8th Street Corridor in
yes.
DC, and now there are tons of restaurants, the nightlife, the Avalon condos and rentals places. I mean,
I lived
huge.
Just down that area. I lived down about 17 years ago, and I wouldn't walk up there. Nowadays, that's a great place.
Yeah.
It's
But it took 17 years, or give or take. So we're 10, 10, 10.
Right.
So it takes a while.
One of our very, very successful opera companies, they do modern 90-minute contemporary operas. They actually sent one to New York last year. Was at Artisphere. That was their home. So they are now going.
And we've worked
Atlas.
with Urban Arias. Yes, we're hoping to take a show to New York that we're involved with too in 2016.
So they're great, and they were booted out of Arlington, basically.
But we've heard people say you don't need to really have an arts experience in Arlington. You have across the river some of the finest arts installations in the world, often for free. Why should Arlington be investing in...
Why shouldn't we? I would argue. I'll take off my commission hat, and I'll put my resident hat on, and I want my taxes to go to some of the arts. I want to be able to go to a great theater here in Arlington and give my money back to the county I live in. I don't want to go to the district and give them my money when I go out to dinner. And as I end every presentation I make before the county board is, we deserve it. We work hard, and why shouldn't we have a diverse and active and great cultural and art community in Arlington?
One of the things that Arlington faces constantly is concern about space. The fact that we're a very, very small county. We have a revenue base that is dependent upon utilization of that space as much as possible. Plus, a lot of it is taken up by federal installations. Is the economic rationale for the arts compelling enough to say, oh, notwithstanding any space constraints, you still need to make that investment, and it needs to be growing, not shrinking?
Absolutely, because again, if you want people to live here, now if you don't want people to live here, and you want people to live in the district, whatever, then fine, But I think that the county commission really kind of wants people to live and work in Arlington because they get to collect taxes from them, and it makes it a wonderful place to live. So, arts. We're not talking, a football stadium, in size, or a soccer stadium. We're talking relatively small footprints and stuff, so the whole space thing to me is really a non-issue because you can have some really great, facilities, and not a lot of space. I mean,
black box theaters.
Yeah, little black box theater. So no, I don't think that there's a space issue involved at all in this. It's a matter of what you want to make your priorities and what you feel is going to pay dividends and returns to the county. And again, the idea, Arlington is 300 and some years old. It's got a lot of wonderful history. It's got a lot of wonderful things that have happened here. The people that live here are very proud. The Arlington way. Part of that is the arts and culture. History is part of the arts and culture. Going back to Roslyn, the people that are going to move down there didn't grow up in Arlington. They are transplants from across the country that are probably either working, across the river, or they're, doing some, consulting job here, or working for, a contractor, over here. And if you want them to, again, live there, or if you want them to stay there, then you're going to have to make sure that they want to stay there. And again, the arts and culture is one of those ways, because without the hub, you're not going to have the small things. You're not going to have those restaurants. You're not going to have stuff around there.
And just if I can piggyback on that, a big problem in Arlington is the vacancy of commercial real estate. Depending on which jurisdiction you're in, it's 21%, 23%. I think Roslyn is about 24%, not counting if Artisphere shuts its doors. Back to the millennials. I know the county is trying to get more technology companies in. Who do technology companies? They want to hire millennials who grew up with all this stuff. Millennials want to live where they don't drive, they can get around on public transportation or walk.
Or bicycle.
Or bicycle.
Right.
So if you want to bring that vacancy down of the commercial real estate, you got to attract the businesses. The businesses want to be where their workers are, and the workers want to be where there's stuff to do. So I would argue that, it just makes a lot of sense that's our biggest problem, is the commercial real estate.
Well, we've talked during this hour about the Artisphere repeatedly. In some sense, it presents a crisis situation for the arts in Arlington. It definitely makes people who care about these issues sit up and take notice in a way that they wouldn't otherwise, perhaps. Is there a way to galvanize that into action going forward? And if so, are there any plans to do that?
Well, the county board hasn't voted yet, so I would encourage all viewers, we have till April 17th. So if you feel strongly about the Artisphere or the arts in general, and you are urging the county board to support the arts more, send them an email, countyboard@arlingtonva.us, and tell them you do support the arts, and they need to, as Lucy said, step up to the plate. And if they're going to tout Arlington as a vibrant arts community, then you know what, you got to put your money where your mouth is.
And even if they don't support the arts, as long as, do they support economic development
exactly.
for the county?
Good point.
You don't have to be, an arts lover. I've yet to find someone who's not have some interest in the arts. I still haven't found that. But I don't care if you want to go to the Artisphere or not, in this case. It's, do you want to see the economic development of Arlington County improve? Artisphere has 70,000 people that cross its threshold, again, like I said, each year. They're going to go someplace else. That's going to be a big hole in our economy. Right. I I've been throwing out a lot of numbers throughout this thing, and so one of the things I haven't done is I've talked about how the arts are important to the economy, but how do they compare to other things? So to compare stuff is always cool. So the U.S. Department of Commerce recently, for the second year in a row, their Bureau of Economic Analysis, that's the group that looks at GDP, gross domestic product. What is all the, if you add up everything that we produce, where is it at? And so the arts are 4.43, the arts and culture are 4.43% of gross domestic product of GDP. Well, okay, is that a lot? Is that a little? Well, if you look at construction, we always say, oh, that's a big industry, huge industry. Arts 4.43, construction 3.4%, so less. Transportation, that's a huge issue, 2.7% of GDP. So again, the arts 4.43% of GDP, construction 3.4%, and transportation 2.7%. So the arts and culture are a bigger part of our economy than transportation and construction, according to the Department of Commerce. Again, these aren't our numbers. Going back to the arts are the largest private employer, actually, in Arlington, although they just are in a lot of different places. They're not in one big building. The arts are business, and that's what I think a lot of our elected officials and even our citizens, even our artists, don't understand, that the arts really are part of our economy, and they really are a central part of our economy. And you're not going to know what you're missing until it's not there. And there's a great story. The Mona Lisa in the early 1900s was stolen, and it was gone for 2 years. More people went to the Louvre in Paris to see the empty space where the Mona Lisa hung than all the people the 10 years prior to the picture being stolen combined. People don't realize what they are losing, or what they have, I should say, until they lose it. And that's what scares me, is Arlington could be going down a road where they're going to lose a great, in this case, Artisphere, but what is next?
What is next?
If the citizens don't stand up and say, we value the arts, or we value our economy, and that's where we have to draw a line in the sand and say, no, we care. We want Arlington to be the best place that is possible to live, work, and play, and gosh darn it, the arts and culture are a central part of that, and I want to make it happen.
Well, we're out of time. I wanted to thank our guests, Lucy Bowen McCauley, Janet Kopenhaver, and Jay Dick, for joining us tonight to talk about arts in Arlington. And I wanted to thank you all for joining us, and I hope you will again soon. Good night.